Welcome back to 1010's podcast with Michael and Robbie. And that's it again. We're not going to do this consistently.
This is not the norm anymore.
The second episode in a row that it's been like this. On the phone, we have Dion von Moltke. I got it right, didn't I?
You nailed it. Thanks
Perfect.
for having me on.
Yes. Dion, some of you may know Dion. You've been racing since 2008. You've won with Skip Barber, Grand Am, American Le Mans, IMSA, 30 podiums, over 100 top 10 finishes. You've won at Sebring and Daytona 24, racing in the GT class. You've got a pretty illustrious resume, including being the founder of Racers 360. So you've got a lot of stuff on your Wikipedia page, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to work with a lot of good people that kind of put me in those spots to add some cool things to my Wikipedia page.
Yep.
I was honestly surprised that you're younger than both of us and Adam, if he were here. Because are you 28? 28
Yeah,
now?
I'm 20.
Yeah, so I'm 29.
30.
You've got a pretty extensive Wikipedia page. We have no Wikipedia, not even for the show, nothing at all. Nobody's put together a Wikipedia page for us. So
Great thing is, after this show, I can go and make you guys a Wikipedia page.
that would be awesome. Somebody that listens to this show will, because that's what they do.
We'll finally have made it then.
Dion doesn't know this, but there was a bounty out for a little while from one of our sponsors to have somebody tattoo our logo on their body.
Oh, man.
No one's taking it up yet.
Nobody's taking it up, but I think that's still out there. What was it, $100?
I think it was $100.
Yep. So if anybody gets our logo tattooed on their body, Booney will give you $100, or if he won't, I'll give you $100. I'm sure he would.
Yeah, we'll split it otherwise.
Yep. So,
yeah, somebody's going to find out about it, and somebody's going to do it.
there are people out there that just get random tattoos. Like, that's kind of their thing. They just, whatever, that's cool. Just get a tattoo. And
well, if it's free, then who cares?
Yeah, exactly. If somebody's paying for it, basically, who cares? So
you guys are helping the tattoo business.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we got sidetracked like we normally do, but Dion, you've done a lot of professional racing. You've had a pretty extensive career for being a younger guy. I think your story of getting into racing is a really interesting one. It seems like you did it a little bit later in life than some people that have had some really great success as far as karting goes. But kind of tell that story of how you got your first kart, because I think that's a really interesting story.
So I did actually do some karting. 2008 is when I started professional racing. So in 2004 is when I started karting. So I still was older than, the average. I mean, most of the average pros are starting when they're about 7 or 8 years old. I started when I was just about turned 14. And it all started from a bribe from my dad, actually. Earlier in my life, we had moved around a lot. And before Facebook days, everyone even move around. You lose all your friends. You have to make new friends. And so it had just gone from Texas to Australia to California to Miami. And Miami, I was going to a school that was a laptop school. And it's kind of funny now that we've got a technology business. And I was not doing well in a school that provided 13-year-old boys a laptop in class to study. Surprise, surprise. So my dad wanted me to switch schools again, and I really didn't want to. And he said, okay, I'm going to bribe you right now. I'll buy you a go-kart or a gaming computer to switch schools. And at that point, it was just, you hear a word go-kart, you're like, I'm in, let's do this thing. It was never meant to be a career. It was just supposed to be a fun thing to do on the weekend. And a month and a half later, I found myself in my first race, and it was the first time I was ever driving in the wet. And I don't think I've ever been so dizzy before spinning out that many times. But kind of one thing after another, I found out I was half decent and started competing in national championships and world championships, and it just kind of went from there.
So did your dad see that in you at that age? This transition from, kids that just do karting to having the support from their family, because at 14 you can't actively really make a decision that, we're going to invest a whole bunch of money in, racing, and this is going to be my career. So how do you get from being bribed with a kart to I'm pursuing something more professional now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if he saw a potential for a pro career when I was in karting. I mean, I did well. I don't think it was like I was there just winning every race, right? Like, there was a lot of competition. I won races and I did poorly some weekends. I think he saw the potential was there. And I think he saw that I took it extremely seriously. Once I started to deter, once we made the jump into cars, I started to make it more serious and really wanted to go after it. It was something I was super passionate about. And it was just kind of the right age where at that 16, 17, 18 era, age point, you start to look at cars and you start to have a conversation. Do you want to try and make a career out of this? And I think at that point I had coaches that believed in me, that kind of maybe helped convince him that there was some potential there. I'm not actually really sure what gave him the confidence to help give me an opportunity at that stage and jump into cars. But I think it was a mix of coaches that saw the talent and I was winning races at a national level, and me taking it seriously and really wanting to pursue this career choice in motorsports.
So did you go from karting, the karting series, straight into Skip Barber?
Yes, yeah. So I jumped in with, that was really the last kind of end of the heyday of Skip Barber. And I was there, I think just at the tail end of when Newgarden and Ricky Taylor and Jordan Taylor, Gabby Chavez, Stephen McAleer. So at the tail end of when, that's where everybody went.
So talk a little bit more about Skip Barber. I'm that series I'm not as familiar with, and I'm sure not everybody that's listening is familiar with it. So talk to us about kind of the series and then the cars that are involved in that and how that race pans out.
So Skip Barber was a lot of fun. Their big thing was, so they had these really, really old Formula Ford cars. Now I'm going to use the word really, really old, but people are racing cars older than that. They're roughly probably like mid 70s, I think. Okay. I'm not really sure. So they were pretty.
That's old for a race series. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
They were not the most fun. They definitely were not the most safe, not the most fun cars to drive. But man, did you learn how to race? So what Skip Barber does is they were like a racing coaching series. They brought in coaches and really top level coaches, and they had these coaches go out to every single corner, and they would be there taking notes. And after the session, you'd come back and you would have a debrief with each one of these coaches and then say, hey, you're absolutely terrible through the downhill. This is what you're doing wrong. Fix it. And you're there, driving, learning, how suspension works, how the gearing works. I mean, racing a car is completely different to racing a go-kart. Now you've got brakes on the front and the rear. So there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of learning. And there's a fun aspect to it because there's a somewhat of a camaraderie between drivers, but there's also a very, very cutthroat, you want to annihilate everybody. So it's kind of a weird dynamic. But so there was really great instruction, and it was race weekend. So you would have a national series and a regional series, and at all the big racetracks in America. So you would kind of go and learn racetracks, get feedback, some really good coaches, and you're competing against. I look at the people that I've competed against, and two of them are Penske drivers now, and many went to IndyCar. Many are full-fledged careers in sports cars. So you're talking about you're competing and growing up against the best of the best.
Yeah, it's really interesting you talk about that coaching style. Robbie, I was just thinking about grid life as he said that.
Yeah, they've kind of gone to that way where it's drivers out of the car where they're watching you, and then they do a debrief after the fact, and then every different coach gets to see you at different corners, and it kind of sounds like that's doing what they were doing years ago.
Yeah, because you said that was about 2007.
Yeah, this was 2007, and they were doing it long before that too. I mean, I think I want to say Juan Pablo Montoya even was in that, and back in I'm going to guess late 90s. I think. I mean, there's it's been around for a long time period, and that coaching style is more necessary in open wheel, especially before you had video and data to go through, and that was kind of still, there was like one car that had data systems, and you had to pay a little bit more, but you get data comparisons if you wanted it, but it was not very available. But I think what grid life has gone in that direction makes a lot of sense. I think if you have a trained eye, you can see for the most part what's going on, and at the end of the day, it's a lot safer as well.
Yeah, definitely. They were taking into account the safety of their instructors, because you don't know, especially in a series like Grid Life versus maybe Skip Barber, you may not know necessarily who you're getting and what their skill level is. I think if you're in the Skip Barber,
it's a little bit more serious.
Yeah, maybe it's a little more serious versus somebody who's just trying to learn about track days, I guess, if that makes sense. Sure. So,
there's definitely that. But at the end of the day, things happen. Cars have mechanical problems. Things break. So sometimes it's not even driver error, right? Like, you're going to be next to the best driver in the world, and things can go wrong. So I'm a big proponent of taking instruction out of the right seat. I actually think I think it's very valuable for beginners on your first day or two, but I do think the quality of coaching, it's not the right environment to be next to somebody telling them in that moment what's going on when you have a million other things happening. I think there's better ways to approach it. So that's, I like the angle that Grid Life has gone. I think there's a lot of value there, and it's better coaching.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Are you working with them? Because Adam Jabay knows you, and then I don't know exactly what Racers 360 and your association with them.
We have a loose association with them. We make content right now for them. So we do, before they go to a track, we have these really, really cool track breakdowns that our coaches are doing, where they'll use the same technology we do for our coaching, where we have an onboard video of a driver on that track. We go turn by turn and talk about, hey, this is what we need to execute on this corner. This is what you're looking for. This is where you want to be trying, the area you're braking, the area you're getting the throttle. So we do these videos that we've done for Grid Life before their events this year. And we're also, trying to help and become their more advanced coaching platform for them. That relationship is still very new and raw. We're getting to know each other and how we continue to help. As we continue to develop our platform and our dashboard, there's going to be more and more ways that we'll work together in the future. We're just not quite there yet.
Yeah,
Makes
that's
sense.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Robbie, do you have some more questions about some of the road racing stuff?
Yeah, so you go into, it's about 2008, and you start to become like a professional driver, but you still are going into college. So how are you able to balance that out?
Yeah, it was difficult. Especially because I tried to do get involved and do a fraternity route, and to be honest with you, at some point you pick your priorities. And I want to say, I tried to balance it out and have a social life and a school life and a racing life the first year. And my performance on track suffered a bit. And obviously I wasn't doing very well in classes either. So really at that point, I kind of just said, look, I care too much about motorsports. This is what my passion is. I've got one opportunity at this. So I kind of left the social scene for the most part. And you give up that whole angle of life and you focus fully on one thing. And I kind of was going to school part-time, but to be fair, I don't even really consider myself like I was really focused on that. I was doing it because I knew that it was good for me and I needed to do it. But once motorsports really started to pick up and I started working for Audi, it became too much work. And, I was gone 35 weekends a year. At that point, I couldn't continue with the schooling in a proper way. So it's really about slowly, allocating your time, picking your priorities. And then once I realized, hey, there's potentially a path forward, I started winning races on professional level. I kind of just fully focused on motorsports.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm curious how you could even find time to practice, or what was a practice regime for you? Because you're not getting into an Audi R8 as soon as you leave class.
No, that's the tough thing. Probably the toughest thing about motorsports is there really is no practice. In fact, I would say amateur drivers, well, this is not all obviously, but some amateur drivers are driving a lot more than what pro drivers are doing. Testing is limited. Testing is extremely expensive. So you don't really get practice. And teams, when they hire a pro driver, they expect you to be on it from the time you're in there, especially in sports car racing. When you've got a gentleman driver, the majority of the track time has to go to that gentleman driver. So your practice time is extremely condensed. There's no time for you to get warmed up or relearn a track, or you've got to be on it from the word go. And you might have, 3 1-hour sessions, but of that, you're really only getting 20 minutes of that session. And there you're working on setup, you're, finding the coaching for the other driver, and you're trying to optimize every little thing. So you've got to be on it from lap one. And there's really no way to practice that. Sure, there's simulators. I don't think simulators are ideal. I think they're a great mental training tool and a great refresher, but there's still nothing that is really replicating seat time. And that's one of the hardest things about this sport is that there is no grace. You just got to be on it, and it's part of the extra pressure you have to deal with.
I'm going to ask a stupid question.
Yeah, of course.
The only stupid questions are the one you don't ask, right?
Exactly.
I think I understand what a gentleman driver is, but can you explain that?
Yeah. So this sport's an expensive sport, and there's different ways that teams can fund a pro racing endeavor. So some teams have sponsors or a wealthy team owner that can pay for everything. The majority of teams in motorsports rely on an amateur racing driver that's enthusiast, that takes it very seriously, but helps pay the bills. So they pay to come racing. They can hire a pro like myself to jump in the car with them. So there's a little bit of a pro-am angle. But don't get that confused. While we call the drivers amateur and they are helping pay the bills, they're still extremely fast drivers. They're not quite pro being paid to drive level, but they're on it. They can go. A lot of them are only a little bit off of the pro drivers.
Yeah, amateur meaning not being paid to be there versus not being a good driver. It's just It's a term for how they're being compensated or who they're compensating, I guess, which would be you in this case. Or the team.
That's a perfect way to word it.
Yep. Fair enough. All right, anyway, sorry I stole your thunder there, Robbie.
No,
I've heard that term before. I thought I understood what it meant, but
I assumed, and
right.
I wasn't wrong.
Right. Yeah, it's an important part of understanding how the teams work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a business at the end of the day, and there's a lot of different ways to make this sport go round. So it's one big part of it.
That makes sense. And then while you were in college, you actually did a TED Talk talking about the difficulties of being in college as well as being a professional driver. And like one of the bigger takeaways I took from that was that, you could go race on a weekend and then that contract's over.
Yeah.
Could you explain to me kind of how the contract system works, or because when you think of like racing and Formula One, like they have their drivers and that's their drivers all season, and that's not necessarily the case for like IMSA or anything that you were doing. So I guess how does that work? Yeah,
so there's not much job security in motorsports. I think that's true for almost all sports. I think motorsports is maybe a little bit worse than others. A long-term contract in motorsports is a one-year contract. So every offseason, you're having to battle and fight for new rides and opportunities. A lot of that comes down to finances and finding that gentleman driver or finding that sponsor to help you get there, right? And I think one of the clearest examples of that was at the end of 2012, going into 2013. We had just completed a full season with APR Motorsports in the Audi. And it was the first Audi there. It developed a really good relationship with Audi. And I knew Audi was coming to Daytona with a factory presence. And that means the manufacturer is going to come in and bring their people, their money behind it for Daytona in 2013. So I wanted to try and find a ride. I had a great relationship with them. They were looking for teams. So I actually approached Alex Job Racing, who I'd won the Sebring 12-hour with previously. And I'd mentioned that, and I kind of connected Brad Kettler, who represented Audi at the point, with Alex Job, helped them form the deal that got Alex Job the ride or the opportunity with Audi. I was not guaranteed a ride at all. In fact, Alex had to go and battle for me to even get in the car for Daytona. So at that point, the deal gets put together. I get this deal for Daytona. So the 24 hours end of January, we have a test at the beginning of January. It was literally Christmas that I found out, okay, I had an opportunity to go and drive for them. At that same time, I organized with Alex Job that I would also drive for him at the Sebring 12-hour in March. So we go to Daytona. There's nothing else after that. I've got nothing else lined up. I just have these two races. We go to Daytona, and we win the thing. Audi's first win there, my first win there. And for anyone that doesn't know the 24 Hours of Daytona, it's massive, 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 massive. On that next week, Alex Job called me and said, hey, about Sebring, you're not guaranteed anymore in the car. The sponsor actually wants somebody else, but there's going to be a shootout at the test. You're going to have an opportunity. We're going to do 10 laps, and it'll be average of your 10 laps and fastest 10 laps, best man wins the ride. So that's like your like, hey, we've just won the 24-hour. About that ride that you had, maybe not so much anymore.
Jeez.
So we go to the test. We go through it all. I happen to get the ride. We go to Sebring. We win again. Back-to-back wins with Sebring. 12-hour with Alex Job Racing. After that, I've got nothing. There's no opportunities. We just won the Daytona 24-hour. Just won the Sebring 12-hour. My second Sebring win. Those are the biggest 2 races of the year. And there's no calls ringing. And I've got really good manager. It's just nothing coming up. And after about a month and a half, I finally get a call from Flying Lizard Racing, and the team owner had injured himself, needed an opportunity. And this was like 2.5 weeks before Long Beach. And then I signed a deal to go through the rest of that season. So it was just like super last minute stuff. And it's all kind of very fluid. After that, I went and drove for Paul Miller Racing. I had 5 pole positions. We had 5 podiums. We finished 3rd in the championship. But at the end of the season, there was no more opportunity there. I needed to find something else because he needed to find a driver that could bring money. He could no longer afford to pay both of his drivers. So it's always a constant battle of having to find the right opportunity with the right team that has the finances to pay you. And there's 200, 300 really good drivers out there that are gunning for 30 spots. So it's a really, really difficult landscape, but you get to go drive race cars, so it's hard to complain about it too much.
Yeah. Well, then you also have like your own personal, someone that's sponsoring you as well as people that are sponsoring the car, right?
Yeah, there's a bit of that. It's hard to find personal sponsors. I had some backing early in my career,
yep.
But once you start driving for race teams, you can't really bring as sponsorship as much, and that's kind of very fly by night because the ROI for a business in sports car racing for what you need to be able to bring, it's just, to be honest with you, it's a tough sell. So yes, I've had that early in my career, but later on, it was more purely team sponsors or team owner sponsors or the gentleman driver situations.
So what do you do then as an individual? Because you said there's 300 people going for 30 spots. How do you differentiate yourself from those people? Because I think anybody that's listening, myself included, would think that if you won Sebring and you won the 24 Hours of Daytona in your class, that people might call you.
Would constantly be called.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a great question. How do you differentiate yourself? It's really hard. A lot of it comes down to personal relationships, being at the right point at the right place at the right time, and you always have to be on it. You have to be in the paddock. You have to be in the environment. You have to be meeting people, talking to people, and being there. And maybe that's part of the reason why I don't have a full-time ride this year is because as soon as you start to fade off of being in the paddock, as soon as you start to be out of someone's mind, you lose those opportunities. And it becomes a very much a sport where a lot of my rides came from other drivers recommending me. So, hey, I want to drive with Dion because I know he's really good. I know he's a really good teammate, and bringing me into situations. And then there's also some where you need to be a little bit lucky. So when I got hired into Flying Lizard, they had been around for 10 years. They were funded by a team owner that was awesome, Seth. That was my teammate. I happened to come in for the last year and a half of his driving career. And when he retired, Flying Lizard could no longer afford to pay the bills and pay pro drivers, so they had to switch over to gentleman driver and funded driver format so that you lose your ride like that. So a lot of it is timing and when you come into a team and finding the right person that likes you. And it comes down to building personal relationships and making sure you're on it and putting up results consistently, not crashing cars every single time that you're on track.
Yeah, so you actually came back from a crash. Like you won in 2013, but when your first Daytona, you actually can you tell a story about that?
Yeah, that was one of the more embarrassing ones, saying that you crashed coming out of pit lane.
It happens, man.
Daytona does happen. So it was a tough year. It was my first year in the 24 hours and a DP. I think it was roughly 18 hours into the race. I just completed a full stint, came in for new tires. And for anyone that doesn't know Daytona, it's cold. Like early in the morning there, it was a year where it was damp, and I think it was roughly high 30s, low 40s Fahrenheit. So I came in new tires. Track was slightly damp. Came out of pit lane with a little bit too much speed. Turned my hands and tried to brake, and the car just didn't turn. Cold tires slid right into the wall, out into the track, and had somebody else collect me. So that was a that was a big setback. That hurt me mentally. It definitely hurt my brand name, right? New person, people starting to get to know. But and it also ended my opportunity with that team, to be fair. So I have to find another team and keep going. But it's part of the sport. You know, it's we've all been there. It was probably a more visual crash and one that looked really, really dumb. And, you know, definitely I should have been more conservative leaving pit lane. But it was one of those things, right? It happened, and it's something that every professional driver or athlete or even an amateur one has to learn how to get through that mentally and move on and put it behind you and focus on the right things. So at the end of the day, I definitely got a lot stronger from that and learned from it. But man, it was not fun in the time being. Like it took a while to get over that.
Did you do anything specifically to kind of work your way past that and just leave it behind, or?
You know, at the time, I'm a big believer in performance psychology and mental strength, mental intensity, and training yourself mentally. And I had been to a mental psychologist. I want to say it was before that. I think it was about a year and a half before that. So I kind of just stuck with it. You know, I worked that frustration and just really took it out in the gym and got even more focused, more motivated, got more time on the simulator. And I did the only thing I knew how to do, which was try to work harder and be more focused and more passionate about what I was trying to do. So I think the only thing that you can do is just, you know, use those negative emotions, try to either let go of them or channel them into a positive reaction. And I think channeling that into a positive reaction is what helped me grow and get back into things and continue my career.
No, it makes perfect sense. And you get your redemption a couple years later. Because I actually had that as a question, like actually later down, because I was a couple weeks ago, I went into the tire wall on like my first time session. And then the rest of the weekend, I couldn't get that out of my head. And I know that yours is obviously on a whole nother scale, but you were able to, you know, put it behind you and move on. So like I was just curious as to how you did that. So that's awesome.
You know, I think a lot of it, and one thing I'm really passionate about is trying to help people get through that. And we actually at Racers 360 do a free crash analysis, because I think a big thing about getting past a crash is not dwelling on it, but analyzing what happened, understanding what was the mistake, how do you fix it. Once you have that, get focused on what you need to execute on. Just get right back to, hey, okay, I want to be braking here, releasing the brake, looking here, throttle there. And when you're in it and you're that subconscious in the zone, you don't have time to think about the crash. You just got to put that behind you. And so I think it's important to analyze it, understand what you did wrong, and then focus just back onto how do I do it right this time? Not focusing on don't do this again, but focusing on the positive angle on what you want to execute on.
No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, like in the day of, I sure couldn't do that. But like on the drive home, when I could slow down and take a step back and go, okay, the reason I started messing up was when I started going into sixth gear. And then like when I had changed what I was doing, then I realized, okay, well, I should have been doing this. Well, then I should have been doing this. And then I can actually analyze, okay, now next time, here's the steps that I need to be taking.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's really tough. After it, your emotions, your anxiety, your adrenaline are all skyrocketed. So it's hard to have that clear mind, and it is really helpful to be able to take a step away from things and just gotta go relax. And that's why, you know, I'm a big believer, and I've been able to go to a place out in Italy called Formula Medicine that trains a lot of the Formula One drivers, DTM drivers on mental and physical training. And their big focus is on a mental economy, which is being able to be super focused, but calm, not getting your heart rate up and focusing on the breath. And the more I've worked there, the more biofeedback tools I've seen, the more bigger of a believer I've become in meditation, using the breath to calm things down, especially in that environment, so that you can kind of have that calm state of mind to go through the process and learn in a quicker instant and get right back to it, you know, right away. I mean, I look back to Detroit in 2015. We had a wet practice. I crashed. The very next session was qualifying. Literally an hour and a half later, I was able to go out there and put it on pole. And a lot of that was down to being able to calm, think about what happened, go through it, and focus on what I need to execute on.
Can you talk a little bit about that meditation? Are you doing that
Yeah.
during race day, or is this a preparation moving towards race day?
So I'm a big believer in visualization, right? I think if you can't visualize yourself executing what you're trying to do on track, you're not going to actually be able to do it. So I'm a big believer in visualization and preparation, but there's a certain point where you just need to let go of that. So I think, visualizing an hour before your session, 30 minutes before your session is great. But from the time I'm putting my helmet on, I'm done visualizing. I know I've gone through everything. I know what I want to execute on. Now I just need to be able to go do it. And the only way to do that is to really clear the mind. So what we learned at Formula Medicine is there's two types of deep breathing that help install this kind of calm point of mind and focus in on the body. I happen to like square breathing. There's also circle breathing. So square breathing is where, if you take a deep breath in and you should like feel your stomach, come in, you take a breath in, you hold it for a second, no exhaling. You have a slow exhale, and then you hold until you don't breathe in again for another second. So you hold that breathless state for a second. So it's like breathe in, hold for a second, slow breathe out, hold for a second. So you have to kind of concentrate on that. It takes your mind off of something. But it takes your mind and it puts it in your body. You can feel, okay, how am I feeling? What's going on? The advantage of that is when we're in the car, there's a lot going on. And we have something called mental chatter. And that's in the back of our mind where that's a little voice saying, you suck, you missed that apex completely. What are you thinking? And a lot of drivers don't even really realize that conversation's going on in your brain because there's so many other things going on, right? So by focusing in on the body, on yourself, you'll be a little bit more in tune to that mental chatter. You'll be able to pick it up a little bit sooner. I've seen drivers that after the race, they're like, I didn't even realize that whole conversation was going in my head, literally the whole race, until the things calmed down. And I noticed that myself. I was able to pick up that negative chatter earlier and kind of redirect it by focusing on the body. I was able to feel the car a little bit better. So for me, it started to become focused more on how, feeling the body, clearing the mind so that it's as empty as can be. And I'm not trying to think, hey, I've got to be flat through here, or I need a break here. I'm trying to be subconscious and focusing on the breath, and this form of meditation really helps that. So it was a big improvement in my career, and we were able to see that with these biofeedback tools that we were doing at this Formula Medicine place. And it's amazing how, we would be sitting down just doing these mental training tests, and I'm sitting down, and my heart rate's at 150 beats per minute because you're so intense. And being able to focus on this, you're calming that heart rate down, and your scores improve, and your heart rate comes down, and everything just, it just feels a little bit slower. Everything is more fluid at that state.
Do they talk about like alpha brain waves or alpha brain state?
Yeah. So it was alpha. I don't know if it's alpha brain waves, but it's alpha waves, and I think it was beta waves. So alpha, I believe, your intensity. Beta is more your calmness. So they've kind of put this thing that measures it. And there was two really cool, feedback tests. One was you'd have these barrels, and the more intensity of your alpha waves got, the barrels would catch flames and then blow up. And you have to blow up as many barrels as you could in a minute. And I swear, you're like sitting there and you're like tensed up. You're staring at the screen and you're like trying to get these stupid barrels to blow up. And on the other spectrum, there was a ball, and it would measure your beta waves, and it would lift up in the sky. And the more and more beta waves, I believe, you're producing, or the strength of them, I'm not exactly sure the technicality, the higher the ball would raise. So it was about, finding this happy medium. It was really, really cool. You learned a ton there. It's a fantastic learning experience.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The way I understand it is if you're in an alpha state, it's kind of like people describe it as being in the zone. Is that the way that they described it to you?
Well, so it's a little bit more complex than that. And I'll say I'm not a doctor, so I can repeat what I've learned and how I interpreted it. So you have being in the zone is a mix of alpha and beta waves. So
okay.
It's not overly intense and it's not overly calm. So what ends up happening is, so you have mental intensity, of mental endurance and mental strength. And so in qualifying, where you're really going to try to put down a really fast lap, you're using a lot of intensity. You're extremely focused, but it's probably not repeatable over a long period of time. You're going to completely exhaust yourself, and you're going to start making a lot of mistakes, right? And then you have the mental conditioning, where you try and get to that intense and be able to keep it for longer. So drivers that can run closer to their qualifying pace and keep consistent for a race pace are able to get up to that intensity level without overexerting their body. They're able to switch on that really intense mode, but they're able to keep the mind calm and keep the body calm. So the zone is really about having a calm body, having a really clear mind that's intensely focused on one task. So it's really a mix of these different kind of ideas and systems all together. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I'm just taking you down a weird path because I find this it's not formula medicine necessarily that I'm as familiar with. I've seen like pit fit training. I find this idea of these specialized training programs very interesting, and I'm just curious to get your take on how they've benefited you, because I think to some extent they're not super mature. It's kind of it's something that's come up in the last few years about, the mental training and the physical training for drivers. I mean, you could go back to like F1 in the 70s and, see that those guys are not the paramount of fitness. Whereas today, racers are looking holistically at how they think and how they train, and their training is different than any other type of athlete, which makes sense, right? I mean, you wouldn't train like a bodybuilder for endurance racing. That doesn't make any sense. You need a type of training that is applicable to the type of racing you're doing. So I just kind of wanted to pick your brain about your experience with that and the benefits that you received from it. And you've kind of explained that obviously with some of the mental training, but the physical training side of it's interesting too.
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. On the physical training side of things, it's quite a lot different. There's a lot of different opinions on the best way to train for motorsports. But I think if you take a look at purely the mental approach, there may be some subtle differences, but on a grand scale, I don't think it matters whether you're a student, a race car driver, or another type of athlete. Anything where performance is important, even if you're playing video games professionally, I think you'll have a very similar mental training approach. Now, there are maybe certain aspects where, tennis, you're going to be picking up a ball and judging the spin a little bit more intensely, where in racing, you're going to be judging a little bit more of maneuvering many different factors at once. But I think the majority of the mental training is very, very similar. And I think if you look at the science behind mental training, it's a little bit newer in motorsports, but it's older and more matured in other sports and other markets. And I think a lot of the science is being backed up and proven in motorsports. There's still a lot more to be learned here, but I think it's a big, big part of it. And really what it instilled in me, that my takeaway from it, and this is kind of one of the biggest beliefs on why we started Racers 360 at the end of the day, was it proved to me that a lot of my success was due to who I was able to learn from and the people that I was able to work from. And it's my big belief and our big belief at Racers 360 that those who have access to the very, very best educators or coaches in motorsports or whatever it may be that you're trying to learn and improve on have a far greater advantage at achieving their goals, whether it's becoming a professional race car driver or just winning my club race. And not everybody has access to those elite level coaches because it can be really, really expensive. But that's one of the biggest takeaways for me on the mental training side of things. Is it was such a big advantage, and I was able to have access to this, but so many weren't, and so most of the mistakes in motorsports are mental. I mean, there's very few times where I see someone making mistakes because of physical issues or because they're not strong enough. there's some of that, but motorsports, especially more so than football, basketball, tennis, it's even much more along the lines of a mental sport than a physical sport.
No, that makes perfect sense, because like one of the big light bulb moments for me this winter was I read Ultimate Speed Secrets by Ross Bentley cover to cover, and like halfway through it switches from like fundamentals and like racing to mental, and it's all mental basically the second half of that book. And when I finished that, like my reading list went from like all these other books I had planned to, okay, here's these mental improvement books on how I can actually, like, these are what's going to get me to be a better driver, not these how to be a better driver books. It was just kind of funny how that shifted. It was like, you know what, my mental strength is nowhere near where it needs to be. So like that shift in perspective this year was huge for me.
And the great thing about this is you don't actually need to drive the car to practice your mental techniques. I think so. I am not a massive believer in simulators in motorsports. I think they have benefits. I think anybody that tells you they're figuring out setups to the simulator, you need to run and hide from. But a fantastic tool for training mental intensity, mental strength, mental endurance. Because 20 minutes after a simulator, I'm way more mentally tired than 20 minutes on the racetrack. But almost anything you do in life, you can really practice some type of mental preparation and breath and all of that. And it sounds maybe a little bit frou-frou, but it works. It really does work. And the great thing about that is you can apply it elsewhere. You can consistently work at it, get better at it. It's just going to help your motorsports career or hobby.
No, this is a great conversation.
Yeah,
I think you saying that it applies to so many different parts of your life is huge. I mean, there's podcasts on top of YouTube videos of people talking about achieving mental clarity and having control of your mind and your emotions and how you apply those things. And you talked earlier about envisioning certain goals and kind of where you want to see yourself and those types of things. And it's very interesting to tie all that together as we talk about racing, which I don't know necessarily how racing's perceived. Maybe it's seen as kind of like a blunt instrument sport, of people just going out there and going just
foot to the floor
and going nuts and getting after shit and but it's not, that's not what it's about. And then you talking about it tying into other sports, and I don't know, it's a very fascinating conversation. And hopefully people can link some of those things together and apply them to, maybe it's just doing a HPDE on a Saturday, or maybe it's something related to their career and their work goals or their home goals or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I hope so. And the big thing there is don't overcomplicate it. I think a lot of people try to way overcomplicate things, not only in this sport, but on the mental training type of stuff as well. Visualization, the more that you can really get into visualization and hear and feel and smell the car is great. But when it comes to this like meditation stuff, it's pretty simple. It's just focusing in on yourself, trying to clear, focusing on the breath. Don't overcomplicate things. And I think you'll start to feel it click. You'll start to feel it. And that positive reinforcement, the biofeedback's great. It's really cool. It does help, but you don't need all of that to practice a very basic form of just kind of mind clearance. And I guess it's quasi meditation, but I think there's a lot of people that try to overcomplicate everything. And I like to try to keep it simple, but at least have some meat on the bone still.
It's the Joe Rogan experience.
Yep.
What else you got? What else you got, Robbie?
That's it. I got two quick questions about. So, like, when you went on from like IMSA and stuff, I guess you went on to be a sports car brand ambassador for Audi of America. I guess what does that even mean?
So, I don't even know if I'm really. I don't know what all the legalities are, but it was a really weird position that I got stuck in. So, for every sports car racing driver, the only quote unquote job security you can get is really when you come in and work for a manufacturer. So a great example of this for most of the sports car racing U.S. fans is a Patrick Long. That's been in the sport forever. He's been with Porsche forever. You think Patrick Long, you think Porsche. He's an amazing representation for the brand and a hell of a race car driver as well. When I was driving for Audi, I got stuck in this weird position where I'm racing in the U.S., and Audi of Germany and Audi of America are almost two separate companies. They're very, very different. And I built this really strong relationship. We're winning races. I've got a factory driver as a teammate. I'm beating him or matching him, and we're doing really well. And I go to Audi Germany, and I actually do some official tests. They bring the new car over to the U.S. I'm part of the development for that in the U.S. So I've got this really close relationship, and I go to them and say, hey, what do I have to do to become an official driver for you guys? Like, we've done all this. We've won the 24 Hours of Daytona. We've finished third in the championship. You see I can do it. And essentially what they told me was, look, because you're in the U.S., Audi of America has to hire you. We can't. So I went to Audi of America, and they said, we don't hire factory drivers. You have to talk to Audi Germany. So you get stuck in this really
Awesome.
weird position. Yeah, cool. Awesome. That's very helpful. So I was able to kind of convince Audi of America that said, look, don't pay me to race your cars. People think of me and they think Audi. I've done a lot for the brand. I go out there. I go to these dealerships. Hire me as this sports car ambassador. I didn't come up with the name of the role, but I said more of a marketing role. But I happen to drive race cars and help represent you there. And I knew at the time I was taking a bit of a risk, because I knew if I went this direction, that next year or that year, I wouldn't have a full-time ride. I would do some races in different Audis with different teams, but there was no opportunities for a full-time ride. But my belief was this could be the start of something long. I'm willing to invest in that, maybe not drive as much, but build a long-term relationship. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. Typical, there was some corporate politics, and a budget got placed on somebody that didn't want it, and it ended after a year. Part of the risk we take in probably maybe an analytical mistake on my part. I probably should have known who I was going to be working with a little bit more. But I wouldn't have changed anything in the world, because I got a DTM test out of it, and got to go represent a brand and kind of live part of the dream that we all go for. And I got an S3 car to drive for the year, which was fun. But it kind of, I think it accelerated. I wouldn't by any means call myself retired. Like, I still want to race. I know I can still race. I still look for rides, but I don't have one. So it kind of accelerated that point to where I am now, where you're like, will I have an opportunity again? And it definitely probably set me back and got me out of the paddock, got me out of people's minds, and people started associating me with only Audi. So by the time the contract ended, they didn't even know they could hire me, because they thought I was still with them. So it kind of got in this weird gray area, and I kind of still had rides here and there, but since then I haven't had a full season ride again.
Gotcha. And then you went on, and then after that, did a race for the cool series, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo series.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, because I think that's a super underappreciated series that's not getting enough exposure. So what was that like?
Are gnarly. So like the GT3 cars on the pro side that we're racing are restricted. So they have to slow down, the Audis, the Lamborghinis, and them have 610 horsepower, their street car engines. I think the Porsche, don't quote me on this, is roughly 530, 550, something like that. So they have to balance these cars, so they restrict the Audis and the Lamborghinis down on power. Well, in this series, the aero is less, the tire grip is somewhat less, the suspension grip is a lot less, because they have street car rear suspension and race car front suspension, but they have a lot more power. So they are weird to drive, different differentials, a lot of power, super fast. And what's crazy is there's a lot of drivers that are getting into the sport their first time ever driving a race car on a racetrack, and they're racing in this series. So you have pro guys coming in, and you have pretty decent amateurs, and then you have really, really green rookies. So it's a wide range. The cars are really difficult. I mean, at VIR, it was pretty much flat through the S's. Like, this is some serious speed we're talking about here. So the racing, they're difficult to pass on because they have ABS. So almost anybody, when you have ABS, can brake super deep and just pile into it. So it became this like weird race series because people could be way off the pace, but they're not easy to overtake. So you have to take higher risks. The cars are really difficult to drive. So it ended up being a lot of fun. And there's a lot of good drivers in there. I mean, Trent Hinman was there. Stephen McAleer was a teammate of mine there. And I think Stephen's one of the best drivers in the U.S. I think the world of them. You see Paul Tracy's there now. Connor Daly's there now. There's a lot of really good drivers. So it's cool. The other thing is there's no politics. In IMSA GT3, we have all these different manufacturers. You're always worried about balance of performance. You have the sandbag, which means sometimes you're driving below the limit of the car so that you don't go too fast and get a penalty for, the car being too good. Here, you could just drive a race car, which is what we want to do. I don't want to think about politics and the Porsche's got a little bit more speed than us this weekend, so they need to be hurt, or we can't go this fast, and all of that bullshit, for a lack of a better term. There we just go race, which is what we want to do, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then before we go into Racers 360, I think you had one specific question, Michael, that I think you need to ask.
Okay, so I need to ask because I've been deemed the watch guy for good reason.
Yeah,
not like it's not on purpose, yourself. Right? So I want to know what it was like for you when they handed you that Daytona Rolex.
It's hard to describe. It's just kind of the culmination of a dream that you go growing up, and it's what you fight for. You fight for this. Be honest with you, the watch is kind of a cool prize. Like, it's more just the pure excitement of winning, that more than anything else. But I will never forget, we get up, we've just won the race, we go nuts. We did not think we were going to win until literally driving out of the bus stop with 10 seconds to go. So after 24 hours of racing, the margin of victory was 1.4 seconds.
Ooh. So
we had to pit with 8 minutes to go. I think even more like 4 minutes to go. So it's one of those races. We had a gearbox problem. It was not expected. And at the last lap was an Audi 123. One of the Audis ran out of fuel, and we had an Audi 1.2. So it was nuts. So we get up to the podium, and we have 4 drivers in the car. And one of the drivers isn't even in their race suit because we didn't think we were going to win. And this talks about you're so euphoric, you're not thinking. So we get there, they're handing us our watches, and they have 5 watch boxes. And each one of us gets a box, and they're like, hey, where's your 5th driver? Trying to look for someone to give the extra Rolex box to. And what do we say? We say, oh, no, it's just 4 of us. Then they take the box away, and then literally 10 seconds later, we're all looking at each other like, we are just the dumbest drivers. So, and it's incredible. I was never much of a watch person before, but you open that box, you see it, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm a watch person now.
Yeah.
I don't wear it much, mostly because I kind of said I don't want just one. I want more than that, and that the next Sebring, I don't know if they still do this, and it might have just been the 1 year that Rolex handed out winners of Sebring watches. So literally 2 months later, I get a watch. One of my teammates was driving for Audi at the time, also got a watch. So within 2 months, we got two Rolexes. I think I gave that one to my dad. I think he wears that one pretty damn often.
You're not a watch guy, but I stalked your Instagram to see because I knew you had won the 24 hours. So I was like, I'm going to see if it's on here anywhere. But the other one that you got for Sebring, and I think to your point, I don't know that they do that anymore or really did it other than the year that you got it. It's not a Daytona, it's a GMT, I think. So anyway, I didn't know that. I didn't have a clue about that. As much as I know about watches and Rolex, I had no clue that they gave away GMTs at Sebring in 2013. So, but
so my teammate at Daytona that also won Sebring was Ollie Jarvis, and they brought all the winners up, and he had won in the LMP1 category, the top category there. And he had, I promise you, no clue that he was getting a watch. They came up and handed him a watch. He was like, "What? I'm a watch dealer." He had no clue. So it was one of those years I was kind of confusion. It definitely didn't happen before. I don't know if it's happened since. I think it was just that one and done. So that's a pretty special watch, I guess, now.
Yeah, it's probably
definitely
one of the most extreme rare Rolexes that exists on the face of the earth. So that's cool, though. That's cool to get to have that experience, whether you really associate with watches or not. It's more of an emblem of it's like it's a really unique trophy and something that people kind of aspire to, which is the cool part of it.
You look at it's almost like a fraternity of 24-hour winners, right? And the amount of fantastic, amazing drivers that have raced there that had never had the opportunity to win there. It requires so much to win there. And I was just really lucky at 22 years old, 23 years old to have been able to go win there and get the watch and kind of tick that one off the box. What's funny is it changes you at that race. So during the night stints, in between stints, I used to sleep like a baby, no problem. Ever since I won the race, I can't sleep anymore. Like, I have to go out there. Like, I don't know, the race changes. It makes you just want it that much more, which is kind of a thing that you don't think about, and I would never have thought about.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, I want to make sure we talk a little bit more about Racers 360. You've touched on a few different things, but I guess what is it that you want people to know about this organization, or how can they benefit from it?
So, I said before that I think when you have the opportunity to work with the very best coaches, you set yourself up to be a lot more successful and improve at a much higher rate than working with an average coach or no coach at all. But especially in motorsports, pro coaching is extremely expensive. Most coaches are $2,000 a day plus travel. It's not accessible for 99% of the market. Now, there are webinars and tools out there that I think are beneficial, but they're not as effective. They're not personal to you. So what we've been able to do is say, hey, everyone's creating data on themselves. From filming on your iPhone, a GoPro, a Smarty Cam, it doesn't matter how fancy the camera is, or if you have a data logger device, that's great. And we can then just simply have drivers send us that, and pro coaches can remotely go through it on top of the video you send in and give personal feedback and give that effectiveness, that personal touch, that it makes them so damn good at what they do and is so efficient and so effective. But because it's remote and because it's shorter snippets of information, we can reduce the cost while actually increasing the back end of these coaches. So essentially our flagship product is a one-lap analysis. You send in a lap, and all of our coaches are highly curated. They've watched thousands and thousands of hours of video. They're not just the best drivers in the world, they're the best coaches in the world as well. And what they do is they'll go through corner by corner and talk technique, line, what you can do to improve, and not only what you need to improve, but how to actually go about it. And that's one of the biggest things that separates elite level coaches from your average coach is they're able to give you actionable ways to improve. And what we'll be able to see from this has been incredible. So our average customers picked up 1.5 seconds after one video. One video costs $99, which is insane. I would never have thought that. I just got someone called me the other day, and they went 3 seconds a lap faster after one video. I got a call today, just before this, that I was talking to somebody at Summit Point that worked with Mike Skeen on a one-lap analysis that won 2 seconds a lap faster. Before our conversation, he was talking about setup changes and how the car was feeling this and this and this. And I said, look, I haven't watched your video. I don't know where you are, but do me a favor. Don't touch the car. Just listen to what Mike's advising and see what happens. And if you still are struggling with the car, then we can adapt to it. He did change the wing angle 2 degrees, I think he said, but he went 2 seconds a lap faster. That's insane. And a lot of it's down to the lack of education and good education in our sport. So our big goal is to come in and make elite level education, elite level coaches accessible, affordable, using stuff you already have. You already have videos on YouTube that you can simply send and get value out of that. And we'll help you drive safer, faster, and smarter.
That's perfect. That's yeah. What else do I say?
Racers360.com. You guys have all your options outlined there. Like you said, it starts at $99 for a one-lap analysis.
You also do some YouTube videos. I watched one actually just today. It was the "Where Are You Looking" video. I found that super helpful. Just like awesome. Where you you have the red dot that shows where your eyes are, and then just kind of it follows it through the corner, and it's just perfect for me because I'm not convinced I'm looking in the right spots. And the
For
video,
sure.
even just a video like this, is just one of those things that kind of drives the point home. Like, okay, this is where I should be looking.
So we do a lot of free content on our website, and you can go to racer360.com. There's a blog, tons of articles where we go in depth on trail braking and where you're looking. And my big belief in education, we all learn in different ways and work in different ways, but I think a lot of people complicate things, like I've said before, and talk about like the circumference level of grip and all of this. I think a lot of things get lost. So you'll see with a lot of our content and our coaching, I wouldn't call it overly simplified, but we try to keep things simple, short. We do race tips in under 60 seconds, where we go through like one specific concept to focus in on. So a lot of our free content, short, to the point, but everything is personal. Everything is highly curated. We're making sure that we're working with the very best to make sure we're increasing that level of education. And the big thing that is, we genuinely want to help. We genuinely want to see this sport improve, because we think through education, retention rates will increase. People will have more fun. You're not going to hit that plateau, that frustration of just being the same speed or never improving. You're going to be spending less money trying to do setup changes when most people are taught incorrectly in this sport. A lot of HPDE programs, in my belief, teach wrong because they try to teach safe. And I don't think teaching safe should mean you teach someone incorrectly. So a lot of drivers drive incorrectly in terms of where they're picking up throttle and where they're turning in. And as soon as we kind of fix that, the car setup becomes a lot better. So we want to help people save money by focusing on the right things, and we're talking about less than the cost of one racing tire. But if anyone has any questions, email me personally. It's Dion, Dion, at racers360.com. I'm always available. If you want to talk, just talk racing, if you have certain questions, if you're skeptical of how we can help, just ask me questions. Like, we're always here. We're always going to be part of this community. We want to do as much as we can to help. And, as a part of that, I want to make sure I'm always personally available to everybody and anybody.
Awesome. Dion, thank you very much. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're going to keep chatting, so we'll let you go, but I'm sure Robbie will touch base with you here and kind of talk about when this is going to come out and all that fun stuff. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
See you, Dion.
Cheers.
So, Robbie, we have an issue.
Uh-oh.
We can't do a Adam's opener, and not because it's the middle of the show, but it's because Adam's not here.
He literally didn't show.
Adam is not here to open this up partway midway.
So do you have...
I don't have anything.
I have nothing.
We literally learned like 5 minutes before we were going to talk to Dion that
Yeah, we didn't want
Adam
to...
wasn't going to make it.
We didn't want to reschedule Dion, so we just went on without him. Does he message you at all?
No.
Well then.
So our opener presented by Factor Fabrication. Robbie, when are you racing next? It's May 1st. You're going to be in Topeka.
I will be in Topeka May 17th,
17th.
18th, 19th.
Yes.
Yep, so I will be in
For
Topeka.
mid-div.
I've been... yesterday I was getting acquainted with the track. They haven't announced what form or what course they're running.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get familiar with a couple, because our factory actually has multiple courses for Topeka. So I'm just practicing driving, getting a feel for the track, so that when I get there, I know what I'm doing a little bit better. And then also James pointed out to me that you can adjust your gear ratio and your axle ratio in the sim. So now I have all that to match the 240.
Oh.
So that's been super helpful now that I'm in the right gear when I expect to be, hopefully, in theory. So that's been pretty helpful. I'm going to try to get at least comfortable in the right way this time, and then, not making quite the same mental errors that I was making before.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to getting on track again. And then this weekend, by the time this comes out, unless, I don't want to jinx myself, How
dare you, Robbie? Why don't you follow the Michael Beck way of approaching or purchasing automotive-related items?
So I'll be so mad if this comes out and it isn't the case. But I'm picking up a puzzle. It's a completely
Of the best kind.
It's a completely disassembled VQ, so I'm pretty excited about it. So hopefully that nothing falls out of place there, and that it is exactly what the pictures claim to be. So then I can just take that home and then start wrenching.
What is it that you can't buy on a VQ these days? I mean,
There's
it's
a
not
lot.
like
Everything's readily available.
yeah. So you're missing a bolt, whatever. It's not that big a deal.
eBay has everything already. My cart's full of all the things that I know I'm going to have to replace. So hopefully it's just a matter of honing and then just reassembling, replacing the wear items.
Absolutely.
Hopefully
Bearings.
I'll be bearings, gaskets, piston rings. Those are the obvious ones right off the bat.
I have a question that you maybe can't answer. Can you turn down a VQ crank? Meaning,
I turned down you mean they're different bearing sizes?
Yes.
Yes.
You can.
There's,
So
there's at least 3 stages of bearings available. So I know that like Z1motorsports.com, they have 3 stages available in the one particular brand I saw.
Talking about stages related to engines.
These are
right? Stage 3 bearings,
stage
bro.
3 bearings,
Go
bro.
fuck yourself, dude.
That means they're super thick because I machined a bunch out.
Please, when you get it done, tell somebody you have stage 3 bearings. Please do that.
No, I don't
and
want.
look it up straight in the face. It'd be like, yeah, it's got stage 3 bearings.
I have no interest in having to go. I don't want to.
No, don't. It doesn't have to be true. Just say it to somebody. Like, yeah, bro, I put stage 3 bearings in. I just want to see somebody's face.
God,
just do it when I'm nearby.
Okay, I'll do it.
Just keep talking about the engine and just I put in stage 3 bearings, and then I did. I just want to see their just
glaze over.
Somebody's head explode.
Is this dude dead serious in the stage
at
3?
O-Drift? They're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this dude doing?" This guy.
No, the crank looked really good in the pictures. Again, I'm gonna have to take a micrometer to it and measure everything and make sure that. And I have a factory service manual, so I have everything that I need. So it's just a matter of checking all the measurements. Checking wear, if anything needs to be replaced, I'll replace it. So if the crank's worn, I need to turn it. I can get bearings that are right size for that. That's something I learned on the SR20 because I didn't do that, and apparently I didn't get the right bearings, so I had to tear it apart and do it again.
Forgot about that. When did that happen?
Like 2009, 2010. So
was that long ago? I thought it was.
Yeah. So I've been down this road before. So I know everything I did wrong the first time. So it's not like I've never built an engine.
Nothing could be worse than an SR20, Robbie. What's the worst that could happen?
I already learned what the worst that could happen is.
Right.
Now
you already did the worst engine. Now you're doing a better one.
Yeah, this would be way better.
Nissan fanboys has it because. What did he say? The VQ is good, but the SR is bad. The fuck, man? Yeah. What is this podcast?
The VQ is good. I'm excited. So potentially, I could have this running this year already.
So the VQ, does it have an oiling?
The
thing?
the 04, 05s, I think, do.
Oh, okay.
That's the one. If you look at them, if it has a solid front cover, like it's all one piece.
Okay.
That's the one without the oiling issue. And then if it has if you're looking at it on the left side, if it has like a second little piece that gets bolted in there, or maybe it's not even a full piece. I can't remember. It's different. And if that one is there, that extra little item is what causes your oiling issue.
Can you fix it?
Yeah, by getting a different year.
So you can't even there's nobody's made a thing.
I think it's kind of like the IMS bearing. Some are fine. Some go a long time and never have issues, and then others grenade themselves or
but you
starve
can't.
themselves.
Nobody makes a LN engineering part to fix this thing.
They might. I don't know. I didn't look.
Oh, okay.
I had no intention of buying that year.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So and this one's an 03, so start from scratch.
Early's better, right?
Early? No, it's actually early. I think it's 04, 05 or 05, 06. 05, 06, sorry. 05, 06 is the year you don't want. Then anything after 06 is fine.
So you can go early or late?
Early or late. It's just
No
that
middle.
1 year. Yeah. The 05s, basically.
What's up with these sports car manufacturers? They just fuck stuff up.
They tried something like, oh, this is bad.
It's literally the exact same thing Porsche did. 1999 dual row bearing, good stuff, not really a problem. Single row bearing, bad.
Now I want to double check.
Then after that, they went to an upgraded bearing. It's good again. It's the same shit.
Yeah, now I want to make sure I'm giving the right years.
Yeah, somebody's gonna buy the wrong.
Well,
EQ.
actually,
fucking Robbie, my
06 is the oil consumption problem. So that's
If I had bought a VQ, I totally would have bought an 06.
Yeah, that'd be the one that's available.
It.
No. So 03 is what I'm getting. So this information about my build or potentially my
somebody else's build,
my rage fit on
rage
Saturday
fest.
If I show up and it's not what I thought it was or it gets stolen from me, is brought to you by Factory Fabrication.
Thanks, Booney.
FactoryFabrication.com. The Z3 Reser Erection racing team is racing right now at Road America.
What? Oh, Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, I was
Sunday,
like,
Sunday.
what is this Wednesday race shit that we're doing now?
No, so they scrambled. That'll be ready. So hopefully Booney and team are racing their car that's been on the drivable for a day and a half.
Did you give him a white sticker?
I gave him a bunch of stickers. If there's a white sticker on that car, I'm going to be so mad. I shouldn't even
He put a
gave
white sticker on a white car.
What an asshole. This section...
He just sent us a picture while we were doing the podcast, and you can't see the
ghosted.
sticker.
It's ghosted.
It's a white car with a white 1010 spot.
What an asshole. Where was I going with this? This opener has been presented by Kanga Motorsports. KangaMotorsports.com for all of your
questions about Datsuns or Spec Racer
Fords, engineering stuff like AN fittings, like how to install them, just basically how-tos and tech tips. A great website. You don't need to worry about fabrication stuff right now. You just need to worry about your racing. So
did you give him a different color sticker?
Yeah, like a bunch of blue ones and black ones.
I wonder if he's just messing with you. It's on the hood in a weird spot. Why would he put it sideways on the hood? That doesn't make any sense.
No, if it doesn't have the backing sticker paper on it, it's on the car.
Well, I know he might have still put it on there, but it might be as a
take
joke.
it right back off.
No. He might just leave it on.
Leave
there.
it, but
it just as a joke.
Kanga, James would never do this to us. His
That's
white car
Kanga's
has
vinyl.
It is Kanga's vinyl. His white car has a black 1010s podcast logo on it. Thanks for the support, James. And Z3 Resurrection team.
I don't know why it's so funny. It's such a dick thing to do. White vinyl on a white car.
He was joking about it. It's like, yeah, it's gonna be subtle. It's gonna be like the LaCroix of cars.
That's what he just said.
What a dick.
That's hilarious. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks, Booney, for ruining an awesome interview with Dion, and then now we have to deal with this.
Oh, that's funny. All right, we'll have to post a picture of that
Yeah,
because you don't have one on your computer right now.
No, it'll be on our Instagram or something.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, you want to do the news?
I would like to do the news.
This is also presented by Kanga Motorsports.
No, go to Apex Pro, and check out
ApexTrackCoach.com.
Thank you, ApexTrackCoach.com. Pick up your Apex Pro. Use the code 10tenths Apex at checkout and get your half off your suction cup mount. Yeah. If you have any questions, let us know. Robbie's got the new marketing materials here on the camera. Comes in a new box that kind of spiffed up.
Yeah, the new box is awesome.
Spiffed up some of the stuff they're doing.
Yeah, it actually tells everything on the back.
Yep. If you guys have any questions, you want to see a unit, this is a good one. If you know that Robbie's going to be somewhere, I'm going to be somewhere, we're going to be at Grid Life, whatever it is, you want to see one, you want to use one, let us know. If a bunch of people want to use them,
We can get extras.
we can get more. So if you guys want to demo one, send us a message, 10tenspodcast at Gmail, or go to the website, or just shoot us a DM or something, find us somewhere.
This unit is perfect for data review.
You could use it for a data review, which then you could then send to Dion.
Yep.
So there you go. 10tenths Apex at checkout to get your discount. Just let us know if we can help you with this.
Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, and if we can't answer them, we'll give you the right people that can.
Yep.
This is an awesome unit. I can't stress that enough. I'm really happy with it.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, we'll do the news. Actually presented by Apex Pro.
Smart car is dead. Did you know they still made a smart car, Robbie?
Allegedly, they sold 1,200 of them this last year.
Why would you
in the United States?
Why would you bother?
Why would you even make?
Why
them?
did you pack it up like 8 years ago?
I didn't realize they were still available because the picture of the one that's shown right now with the newest one, I've never seen anyone that look like that.
I've seen one.
The body lines are.
I
Way
saw
different.
one the other day. Here's the thing with this. So it's dead at the end of 2019 or the 2019 model year, so it's probably dead now.
Yeah, technically.
But you can't get it in a gasoline engine. You can only get it in electric.
Yep.
And it starts at $25,000.
Is that you?
It was me, sir.
Okay. No, you're fine. I just want to make sure my computer wasn't dying.
Windows is trying to restart. Imagine that. That's all it does.
I seriously panicked. I'm like, oh no.
My Surface, all it wants to do is restart all the time.
Yep.
$25,000 for an electric car that goes 58 miles.
No way.
I swear to God. The range is 58 miles, dude. And you look like that when you drive it around.
It's not even like cool like a IQ. It's It's terrible. It should be half that, at least.
I don't think they could afford to make it
No, like,
that cheap.
I'm sure they can't. But like, you can get what was it, the Chevy Volt?
No, the Volt's or hold on. Is the
dead?
Volt or the Bolt dead?
I thought the Bolt was
They should have named them different
I don't
things.
know.
And
There's-
name them the same.
maybe the Volt is dead.
Anyway,
Wait,
doesn't matter.
You can get. Oh, how about this? Well, you can get a Prius.
That's literally what I'm looking at right now.
You can get a Prius for the same price.
Full size Prius starts at $23,700.
It's less.
It's less. It's about 13 or a grand less, let's say.
Okay.
If you want the small one, where's the small one? It is $21,500.
Even more or less.
If you want to not look like a Burke and get a Camry hybrid, or wait, a Corolla hybrid.
Corolla, that's what you
it's
want.
$23,000. You look like a normal person,
You get
and you still
triple the no.
You get 53 miles of the gallon in the city, and it's a hybrid.
Why would you? No wonder no one's buying these. 58 miles. People have range anxiety at 300.
Right.
I didn't realize they were that low.
And I don't know what you would have to do to achieve 58 miles. Like not use your turn signals? I mean, how small is the battery?
It's got to be itty bitty.
You know what I
You
mean?
would basically have to be coasting down the hill, I bet.
Well, I wonder, it'd be interesting to know how they determine mileage, or if it's just like a free-for-all. You just tell them
It has to be a
what your
free-for-all.
mileage is, or if there's a standard. Because this car you would never drive. Like, I don't even think, I mean, would you even drive it in Des Moines? Like, does that even make sense? Or would you drive it in New York, where you need a teeny tiny car for a teeny tiny parking spot, and you're literally driving 2 miles, but it's going to take you an hour?
Yeah, that's the only time you would use it. Because like I couldn't use it. I'm not gonna take it down the interstate to go to work.
Well, I don't know.
What's it top out at?
My commute, that's 20 to 25 miles, plus going to the gym. So let's say in
Yeah.
a day I drive 30 miles.
Sure.
Is that it? Is that the whole charge? Or is
It's got to be close by
because
the time it
if
sits
you
all
say
day.
if it's less than 60 and I drive at 70 miles an hour to work and then do a little bit of town driving and then do that back and then drive through town to go to the gym, is it 3/4 dead? Is it half dead?
Is it all LEDs or are these lights draining batteries too?
That's what I'm saying. I think you put turn signal on and the battery starts draining. Allegedly. But I just, yeah.
Well, what type of mileage was it getting when it was on the little Briggs and Stratton engine it had?
the 5-horse?
Yeah, but it's got to be decent.
I don't know. That's a great question. No, I don't think it was ever that good.
Oh, I thought it got decent for. I mean, it's itty bitty.
2017.
No, we don't get one that people actually bought.
2010 Smart
4.2.
4.2, which is a pun, by the way, which drives me insane.
What is the pun?
4.2. It's like, it's not 42. It's FORTWO.
Oh,
It's 4.2. It's a
4.2.
smart 4.2 people. It's like a pun. It's really bad.
Oh, it's 4.2.
Yeah, it's not
I seriously never got-
FOURTWO. It's FORTWO.
I honestly never picked up on that.
Strike again, smart. 33 city, 41 highway.
That's not that great.
So you get way better out of the Corolla hybrid.
Yeah, no wonder that failed.
53.52 on the Corolla, 33.41 on the gas 4.2.
And you can put your, I don't know, golf clubs in the trunk.
You can put people in the back. You put
Yeah,
four
four
people in it.
people.
So 4-4. Oh. It never made it. The Smart never made any sense.
No, it really didn't.
In Paris, maybe.
And at half the price they were charging.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that
I think a G Wiz was like, back in the day, like 10 years ago, I think those were like 8,000 pounds or something. How much is a G
Gee whiz. I'm not sure what a Gee whiz looks like.
Whiz. It's terrible, Robbie. It's not good.
You don't know that. It could be great. Whiz.
Car. G Wiz car.
I'm not going to, I'm getting a bunch of weird things popping
It's a
up.
terrible looking car. It only weighs.
Oh, it is ugly. Hold
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst car of all time.
It's so bad that it's actually better than the 4.2.
Oh, really?
It's so bad. But that's only because it has to cost $12.
Okay, so pricing in the United Kingdom started at 10,000 pounds.
So less than half.
Yes. Of course, that would have been, who knows, 2000. I don't
Plus,
know.
that means I could get a
actually
used
don't care.
one for like $3,000.
Yeah, I don't care when it came out. So in 2009, it was sold in Costa Rica for $13,000.
Where would you drive it in Costa Rica? Isn't that all jungle? Don't you need a Jeep?
I'd probably have some roads. I would assume, considering they, sold that there. I mean, that's not going to do anything.
I suppose it did go on a road somewhere. There has to be a city in Costa Rica.
It only weighs 400 kilograms without the battery in it, and the battery's teeny tiny.
Yeah.
So there's stories of people actually picking them up and moving
them. Well, we did that to a Geo Metro once.
Picked it up?
Picked it up and
Did
moved
you
it.
bounce it
Yeah.
to move it?
A little bit.
Because I want to try that sometime. I want to bounce a car to move it.
We've done that. We bounced it and we lifted it.
It's just
She did not appreciate that.
Who is this human being that you did this
The
to?
friend. She didn't find it as funny as we did.
Why not?
When she came out of work and the car was just gone. I mean, it was there, but just like not where she left it.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I mean, we didn't just steal it.
If you own a Geo, you got to laugh at yourself a little bit, right? I mean,
You can't take yourself that seriously.
no.
I don't know, man.
You just can't. You just can't please some people. They just
Yeah,
don't have
people
sense
are
of
just
humor.
so
can't
uptight
laugh
all
at
the time.
themselves. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Ford and Rivian.
Rivian?
Rivian.
No, that's not right.
Rivian.
Rivian. Rivian. Rivian.
Yes.
Rivian.
Rivian. Rivian.
We got what?
It's not an
we
ideal
got
name.
Dion's name right, and
It's-
that's all that matters.
It's not an ideal name, if I'm honest. Rivian.
Rivian.
They made a deal to make electric vehicles for Ford, basically.
They spent $500 million to partner,
Right.
just to buy a stake in it, which is crazy because Amazon spent I think $800 million to also buy a stake in this company.
Something like that.
Something crazy.
Yes, somewhere in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
So Rivian has
Some cash. We got some cash money over there at Rivian. I guess for those that don't remember, they made that electric pickup truck maybe a year ago or 2 years
something like
ago.
that. Yeah, it was not too long ago.
That people hated. I don't know why people hated it so much. I don't think
hate
it's
it.
that bad.
No, I don't like the front headlights and the lack of grill or whatever they call the front bumper.
Yeah, it
I
doesn't.
I don't like the front, but the rest of it looks fine.
I think it's fine. I would like to see, the range thing's an issue again, but I would like to see, I would like to see what it's like to tow with an electric motor. You know what I mean?
I do want to know what that feels like.
I feel like it might be good. It might be a good thing.
It might be great.
It'd be cool if you could get an electric truck with a diesel generator.
To keep it going?
Yeah, because I feel like that might be like a real sweet spot.
A diesel electric hybrid sounds like a really great pickup.
It doesn't even need to drive the rear wheels. It just needs to be the generator for the electric motor in the event that you need
It's
power.
It's a great idea,
Yeah.
but it kind of defeats the purpose of going to an electric car.
You think so?
Sort of.
Well, I don't think. I think
It's not. I guess.
I think your energy loss is less, though.
Okay.
I'm making this up entirely, but I
It
think
could be more efficient.
I think in theory it's more efficient because your loss. I think your electric loss is near lossless.
So what you're saying is I need to buy this pickup and just buy a generator.
Right. Literally get a Honda generator. It's got the same motor as the Civic, the little ones,
Yeah, the little guy.
They're real quiet.
They're shockingly quiet.
It's the same.
Those are gas though. You need a diesel.
Oh yeah.
Do they make diesel generators?
I don't
that
know.
small?
Well, Honda probably makes diesel generators, but not that small. I bet you could still get one of the Honda Civic generators.
Yeah, then you can
and
stuck it in like
stick it in
in a DZ container thing.
And just throw
Smoke
it. Just
yeah, give it
you get a little exhaust, a little bit of intake.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Set.
We just solved electric pickups.
We did. It's fixed now. Don't worry. But the real kicker on this is that they've decided they're going to build a new pickup and an SUV using the modular platform from whatever it is.
Rivian.
And it has nothing to do with the F-150, which they're also making an electric version of.
Is that two separate? That's two separate.
Two
things.
separate things.
So Ford's making an electric pickup,
Right.
And then Rivian's going to beat them.
Making them an electric pickup for them that's not the F-150.
One of
Do
them.
that math.
That's not gonna. No. This shouldn't. You need to be cohesive on this, guys, and it's not working. One of those isn't going to work. Or maybe
I don't know
it
what to tell you.
will. Yeah, because didn't Ford just team up with Volkswagen as well on electric cars?
I don't know, man. I don't even know if anybody's actually no
one
what's
does
that?
any-
Everybody gives. They're all giving each other money. It's like a giant circle. Like they're just passing the money from one person to the next. They're like, yeah, we're in.
I'm in the wrong tax bracket.
We're in a partnership. We we gave GM $100 million, and then we gave Ferrari $18 million for no reason. It's just like, oh, but we're going to use their HVAC control knobs in our new vehicle, so we gave them $380 million. It's just like, what? I wonder if you guys don't make any money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's the thing that's coming to you in the future.
Potentially.
To look forward to.
And we don't know what badge is going to be on. It could be Ford. It could be Rivian.
The Avion company.
Could be Volkswagen. I don't know. It could be
Avion.
Maybe Tesla's going to buy it from them. Who knows?
Speaking of Tesla, Robbie, who put this news together? Tesla's car insurance rates.
This is electric car news.
Electric car news. Tesla's car insurance will change based on how you're driving, and that means that they are creating their own car insurance.
Well, I knew they were making their own car insurance, but are they saying this is like active, so like my bill could change monthly? Because it's based on it's based on data that it's recording based on your driving at all times because you're in a cloud.
I would think. I wouldn't think that they could do that. I would think that they would.
There has to be a limit,
like a monitoring window, or they monitor you periodically and change your rate annually. I mean, you can't just change your rate every month. That's insanity.
Every day based on like, by the way, I noticed you were speeding a lot, so now your rate on that day was triple. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but that doesn't that like defy the whole point of insurance, which is a risk pool?
Yeah,
like if you're just charging people, if you're charging an individual for how much risk they're individually taking, like I don't think like it defies part of the fundamental part of insurance, which is that everybody's just throwing their money in a pit, and then we pay out claims from that amount of money, and then you adjust the overall cost of basically the pit of money based on the claims,
right?
And you can kind of break it down a little bit, but I just don't know. It's kind of a goofy thing that they're doing.
Because the way they describe it almost made it sound like it was on real time, or that they're actively monitoring your data or your driving data, and then adjusting it accordingly.
Well, I think they're doing that already.
Which they do
actively monitoring what you're doing.
Well, that they are doing,
and now they're just selling you insurance.
Because Progressive has that little snapshot thing. So I mean, if you want them to monitor you, in theory, they could give you a lower discount or bigger discount.
Well, did you hear the other thing? I didn't write this down. So I knew about the snapshot thing, which I don't know if that really truly benefited anybody.
I know some people have done it. I've never. It's basically just. If I hit my brakes too many times, it's gonna.
Yeah, and so they said that they weren't going to they had a base insurance rate or whatever, and then if you were a good driver, they were going to give you a discount based on that thing.
Right, but if you're a bad driver,
right? They said they weren't going to do that though.
Well, then.
And then they did.
Did Tesla say that? I think Tesla said the opposite. Like if you suck at driving.
Tesla said the opposite. Progressive said they would only give you a discount if you were a good driver.
Yeah.
And then they backed up and figured out if you're a shitty driver, they're going to charge you more.
Well, and it's not completely indifferent to what we do now. I mean, if you get your third OWI and you go into what SR22 or whatever they call that, it's basically SR20.
It's SR20 insurance?
It's the SR20 insurance.
You can't afford it, trust me.
Yep. So that's not new. I mean, if you're proven that you can't handle being behind the wheel of a car without something bad happening, I understand your insurance rate's going high. But I think in a full-time active for everybody, I feel like that's bad.
I don't know. I guess my concern with it is, I don't, do you need all that information about me?
No, you do not.
Okay.
I've never gotten it. Well, I guess I got a couple tickets, but I've never gotten any serious accidents or anything like that. And my insurance is good. I don't really need you to be like, well, actually, we noticed that you do speed more than your history shows.
Right.
So
you've just never gotten caught.
You've never gotten caught. So now your insurance rate's a little higher.
But how that to me seems so close to we're just going to tell your car how fast you can go now. So that's
absolutely what it is.
We know how fast you're going. And we know where you're driving.
Yep.
We know how fast you should be going. We know what you should be doing. So now, instead of you paying for all this insurance and whatever, we're just going to dictate what your car does.
Yeah, we're literally one step away.
Right. It's just it's right there.
Uh-huh.
I just don't like that side of it.
You know what I just realized? Now that this episode's almost over.
What?
You should have sat in that chair.
Just to be really confusing?
No, because they're looking at the back of my head on the video.
Oh.
You see what I mean?
Yes, I see that now because you have to look at me
I'm
all
looking
the time.
Yeah, because I'm not going to talk to you and look at the screen.
You could
I normally would.
You could like a weirdo.
Exactly. So you should have sat there, all Joe Rogan style, so we could have been facing each other, and then you want to start this.
I couldn't run the mixer though.
You could turn it around.
Oh god, if I move this mixer,
No,
the
don't touch it.
whole
Don't touch
thing
it.
may come apart.
No, don't touch it.
What we're gonna do for next time Adam's gone?
We'll switch
He
spots.
likes to be gone now. So what we're gonna do is I voted for John Cena. We're gonna get a John Cena cutout or something, or
Yeah,
a poster.
a life size
John
thing.
Cena. We're gonna put him in his seat here so people on YouTube can see that John Cena's here.
The empty seat's just.
Or the other option was Avril Lavigne.
I don't know if that still exists anymore because the skate park had one. It was the life size cutout of Avril Lavigne, and they gave it to me when I was in college.
Size cutout of Avril. Oh God, how do you spell it? Lavigne.
I have no idea. L-E-L-A? Whatever, doesn't matter.
Robbie, it's only $20 on eBay.
I'm not doing that. Especially when I had one. I had one for a long time, and I think I gave it to Adam.
Come on, Robbie.
I think it's
What?
in Adam's garage. I'll bet money it's in Adam's garage. I think I gave it to him.
Oh, we could get a life-size cutout of Gordon Ramsay.
I don't want him in this house.
We could get a life-size cutout of a bunch of people who I don't know who they. Oh, Pink. Okay.
No.
Uh.
Well, it's gotta be like a professional wrestler, like The Undertaker or John Cena or something. It's
Okay.
gotta be something funny.
Hold on. Life-size cutout of John Cena? Cena. Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, those have got to be a dime a dozen.
Let's
You can
see
probably
what
go to
we get
Walmart
on
and get-
Amazon.
You can get one at Walmart today, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, we might have to get a life-size cutout of
Here,
John
I'm gonna
Cena.
talk to you over here now.
That's fine.
I don't-
He's doing the hand thing, too.
You can't see him though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I
if
don't
you put
know
him in
if
that
this might
chair,
not
no
work.
one will see him.
This might not work. We might have to go with Adam Levine. That's
No,
confusing.
I don't want Adam Levine. I
That's
can't stand his
confusing.
music.
Can we find another Adam? I don't like him either. Can we find another Adam that we could put in the seat?
Dude, yeah, we can come up with something.
Famous Adams.
Corolla.
Nah, because he
got
does
his
a
own
car podcast and it doesn't really work.
It confuses people.
Adam Lambert.
He sings. I can't sing.
Adam Sandler.
He just sings. Yeah, he's funny.
Adam, I don't know any of the rest of these people. Adam Ortiz.
Nope.
Adam Driver. Ooh, Star Wars.
I have no idea.
That's the.
Don't
he's
even
the
try to explain
He's
it. It's
the
not going to
Sith
make
guy. He's got the light.
Jar Jar Binks.
Similar, yes, but he's got like the light, the thing with the light, the
Chewbacca.
light that comes out of it,
Adam
and they're
West.
like all stabbing each other with the lights. You know what I'm talking about?
I literally
the
have never
light
se-
thing.
I've never
He's
seen
got
it.
two light things. Everybody else has one light thing.
Darth Maul? No.
It's the same. It's all. They're all the same.
I
But
can,
similar, yes,
Revenge of the Sith?
yes. Is that a new one?
I have no idea. I've never seen them.
But he has two light things, and when they do the light fighting.
This is the best. This is the best two podcasts you've
I
ever
know,
had.
that's what I'm saying. Ooh,
So what does he have?
Adam Devine is the guy from that Comedy Central show,
Oh yeah, Workaholics.
Workaholics.
I know that.
we could get Adam. We could get a life size cutout of Adam Devine.
How about Adam West?
Adam West from the original Batman.
Yep.
And
Family Guy.
Family Guy.
I think he died though.
I was gonna say he's very old if he's not dead.
You know what we should have done since
2017.
I was just talking to him? I should have just drug Booney over here and made him sit in here.
Yeah, Booney should come in here sometime and
Actually,
have to hang out with us.
I think he's gonna have to tell us about his what's it called? WRL racing.
Well, what we should do is because he's got the shop. We should go to the shop
Yeah, we could do that.
and have an excuse to actually use some of the remote equipment that we bought 2 years ago.
We've used it.
We've used it a few
Before?
times. I'm not saying that we've never used it, but it's a good excuse to go
Okay.
somewhere else sometime. There you go. Now you're looking at the camera.
Do
Again.
you want to wrap up this podcast?
I do. What's
Okay.
next here?
Koenigsegg?
Oh, that's not an electric.
Not an electric car.
This man is beating it with a hammer on this video on the drive.
Yeah, so the Koenigsegg's, since they cost $2 million and they're overly designed and built, they can get away with using one monocoque and then basically just replacing the body on it for all their testing, which is kind of crazy to watch because they just destroy this Regera.
What is with this man with the hammer? What is he doing? If you watch this video,
yeah,
this man
so-
literally just goes around beating the entire car with a hammer.
They're trying to pass the tests that the smart airbag technology that they have, which is absolutely insane, will not go off unless it's a legitimate crash. So like they'll slam it with a sledgehammer on the bottom, on the top, all over it, or this has nothing to do with the sledgehammer. The smart airbag can sense the size of the occupant, where the occupant is sitting, also whether or not they're wearing their seatbelt, to determine the inflation area and force. I was fascinated by that.
That was probably something that Christian von Koenigsegg designed over a lunch break or something.
Yeah, he probably
normal.
he had the idea and then they just knocked it out.
It was a normal thing for him.
Yeah, I was super intrigued by the video, and like
The video is great.
And yeah, Christian's just walking around the car like it's nothing. He's like, yeah, this is we overly designed this, and it's great, and here's the testing we're doing. It's like, this is a big deal. This is super cool stuff, and you're just like, yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. I work on this every day.
That's because there's a secret red door that you walk through, and they've got like lasers and space aliens and shit inside of there, and they're using oilless,
Yeah, technology
20 to 1
doesn't exist
compression
yet.
gasoline engines that we can't even imagine yet because he's in a different dimension than the rest of us.
Is.
Also, who is it that drives these things off of like
Jumping them off curbs and stuff?
like what?
I think it's Christian. I think he's doing it.
Or what? His test driver, maybe?
Yeah, how'd he get that job?
I don't know, because the video is just a bizarre thing to watch because it's literally them driving the car like off of curbs.
Yeah, jumping speed bumps and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I think Josh, you refer to him as Zach LaPetrie.
Yes, Zach LaPetrie.
Posted it on the group actually yesterday, I think.
Thanks, Zach. Or you can find it on YouTube.
Yep. But
very cool.
From an engineering standpoint, you have to basically, that is so far overbuilt that they had to prove to National Highway, whatever, DOT, whoever has to approve these things. They had to prove out the fact that it's so far overbuilt and the factor of safety has to be so high that you could get away with just one. And it's not, I don't think it had anything to do with the cost of the car. I think they legitimately proven that the monocoque of that car is that safe, that they can crash it, completely destroy the front end, replace the front end, and everything's fine.
It's good buying advice, Robbie, because you could buy a Koenigsegg, and if you get in an accident,
just replace the front end.
You just replace the front end, you don't have to write off the whole car.
Yeah.
It means for sure the insurance will be cheaper.
For $2 million, you get what you pay for. You are safe.
I would say with Koenigsegg,
Yeah.
it's I think that's the most bang for your buck. I realize it's a lot of buck.
It's all the bucks.
It's all the bucks, but comparatively, like even if you compare it to
what's another $2 million car? A Bugatti?
Well, nobody wants a Bugatti. I don't know why people are buying Bugattis. To be completely honest with you, I'm not sure why you buy one.
You don't.
I think maybe you buy one because you can't buy a Koenigsegg because the waiting list is
like 10
47 years long.
Yeah.
But I guess you'd buy a Zonda because you love the idea of the Zonda and the look of it, and or a Pagani. Sorry, they don't make the Zonda anymore. The Pagani.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
You can get the you can get the wind noise. I think you buy that because you love the idea of that. I don't think it's a better car than the Koenigsegg,
I agree.
I imagine their waiting list is probably a billion years also.
Yeah, I think they make less cars than Koenigsegg does.
Do they really?
They have to.
They're Italians. They're off doing other stuff.
Yeah, they probably
Swedes, they're like, we got to get some stuff done.
And they're trying to ramp up.
Yeah, they're trying to ramp up.
They want to do hundreds, whereas I bet Zondas are in the tens. Or Paganis.
There's a lot of lunch to have there and a lot of cigarettes to smoke, and there's wine everywhere. If you go to the Koenigsegg factory, it's like in the middle of nowhere, and it's winter there all the time, I assume. And so what do you gotta stay inside?
You
and work
drink coffee and work
you
all day.
Work. If you're in Italy, it's nice outside. You can go outside and have a glass of wine, prosciutto, and it's just the wine and the cheese, and the next thing you know, you're taking a nap, and it's like, you just we'll build cars tomorrow.
Yeah, the 2-hour lunch break, that's real there.
Let's just build some cars tomorrow. We'll build some cars when we build some cars. And
yeah, they'll get done.
And they got to have, design meetings. They got to talk about fancy headlights and stuff like that. They just don't have time to make cars.
Yeah. They got to pick out what color chrome they're going to use.
They got to pick out colors. Did we get through all the racism? Are we good now?
The country of Italy is going to ban us.
No, it's that Everybody says that about the Italians.
We're equal opportunity. We make fun of everybody.
Except for Evo owners, apparently.
Yeah, we don't bash him hard enough, apparently.
I got called out for not making fun of Evos, but I don't know what to say about the Evo.
They have glass transmissions. I don't know. How about that? We've said that like a million times.
If somebody has an Evo and they want me to drive it so I can come up with insults for Evo owners,
there you go.
Hit me up. 10centspodcast@gmail.com. I'll come drive your shitty Evo. What?
We had a great opener.
What was it?
You changing the oil on your Porsche.
Oh, yeah, I totally destroyed my garage. Do you have a picture of it?
No, I didn't even think to send it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well. Literally, so I'll just explain it.
Yeah, please do.
The Porsche 911 has 11 quarts of oil in it. For a 3.6-liter engine, has a billion quarts of oil inside of it, and the drain hole is huge. So it's not like a bolt. Inch? It's not like a bolt. It's a 8mm hex, recessed hex. Yes. So when you that thing comes out, all of it comes out in 30 seconds. All like 10 quarts of oil comes out all over your garage floor. The problem is I had the thing there, but I had the one that everybody has, which is plastic.
It's just a little pan.
It's a plastic pan, and it's got a top on it.
Yep.
And you pull the plug out of the middle of it, and then you open the vent.
Okay.
It's meant for American cars.
Yeah, of course.
Because you buy it at O'Reilly's or whatever. And yeah, 6 billion quarts of oil came out, and I'm watching it. I'm watching it happen, and I'm like, there's not shit that I can do about this impending disaster that's about to happen. The pan's filling up. The pan was empty too, so it wasn't that. It was just there was nothing I could do about it draining any faster.
Just going on the floor.
Yep. So I was like, well, it's on the floor now. That's where the oil goes.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a picture. It's not going to happen fast enough. It's not
it's okay.
It's just it's
quite
funny. It's a picture of a puddle of oil.
I laughed at myself. I thought it was funny.
You just got to accept it.
I just had to go buy a bunch of oil. Yeah, I was watching. I was like, I could be fucking pissed about this, but there's no reason because it's kind of funny.
Nothing I could do.
Right.
This is it.
This is. When you buy like a lot of the same car, you don't notice this weird shit that but then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna buy this thing out of left field, and you're like,
this is way different.
This is weird, or this doesn't make any sense, or does it need this much oil in it? You know, apparently the Germans thought you need 2 or 3 times the oil capacity for the number of displacement liters. There's not that much oil in a 6.2 liter LS.
No, there's
way less oil in that one.
Yes, there is.
Oh God. Of course, it comes out. It looks new because there's so much of it in there. The oil change interval on the car is literally. I'll have to go look at the service manual. I think it's 20,000 miles.
No way. That's a lot.
I assume it's because the capacity is so big.
Yeah,
and you're just not.
Plus, you're using like the best of the best Porsche branded oil.
Everybody always says don't do that. Obviously, and I won't do that. I'll probably change it every 3,000 miles or 5,000 miles or whatever.
Meticulous on that.
Yep. But, yep. So the other thing I had to do, because the previous owner did it, and I don't want to, talking about not owning your own car, I don't own this car, this is Simon's car, I'm just looking after it. So what I had to do was cut the UPC off of the oil filter box and write the oil change mileage and the oil and the date, and then I had to put a hole punch in it, and then I had to put it in the book, put the book in the thing.
Yeah, but is this the first one that's been done by not?
This is literally
tech?
this is.
Is this the only one without a receipt?
This is a good question. So this might be. Oh God, I'll have to go back and look because he didn't like the dealership. He's like me; he doesn't like the dealership, so he didn't let them change the oil in it.
Okay.
So what he would do is he would buy the filter that they tell you to buy.
Right.
Porsche tells you to buy or whatever. And then he would buy the oil.
Which you have to special order that filter, I assume.
Yes.
You're not getting that. You're not getting that at AutoZone.
Douche moment. I went to CarQuest because I needed 040 Mobile 1. That's what I needed. So I go to CarQuest and I bring 2 5-quart things of 040 up to the counter. He said, what can we help you with today? I was like, just let me buy the oil so I can go home. I don't want to talk to you about what I'm doing. Just let me leave. And he's like, that's cheaper if you buy a filter with the oil. And I was like, I doubt it. And he goes, let me look it up. And I said, fuck you, just let me buy the oil. And so he's like, okay, what is it? 2003, yes. Porsche, yes. 911. Yeah, that filter's $20. I was like, I just wanted to buy the oil. Just let me buy the oil and go home.
Did they actually have it?
Yes. It's like, it's cheaper if you buy the filter. I'm like, it's not. Just let me go. Just let me leave, please. If I give you money for the oil, can I go home so we don't have to have this conversation
That's amazing.
in front of these other 6 people that are in here? Like,
Yeah.
nope. That's that filter's $20. I don't have it. Yeah, I'm aware. So, yeah.
That's
so anyway,
wonderful.
what Simon used to do is cut out the UPC off of the filter box and
Yep.
then write all the information on it and then hole punch it and put it in the service book. And so that's
That's what you're doing.
that's what I have to do.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's in the thing now. It's not these are not my decisions.
Nope.
Other people have made these decisions for me. I'm just here
You
to
are
look
logging the
I'm
maintenance of
looking-
this vehicle.
I'm
and
here
that's
to
how
look
we're
after
doing
it until somebody else buys his car from me.
Yep.
All right. Look like enough of a jackass this episode. Think we can move on. I think that's it. We talked about racing. There's really not much else
That's all I got moving
coming
forward.
up for a little while. So,
Then
but
at
yeah.
the end of the month, it's Grid Life.
yep.
It's really
Hard to believe that it's May
4 weeks
already.
away.
It's 4 weeks away.
Adam, Jabay, Grid Life's 4 weeks away.
Get us hooked up with the employee whatever thing we got to do. We got to announce Time Attack.
Yeah, I
don't
want to
we?
be there.
No, we're supposed to announce Time Attack
Yeah, I want to be there to talk about other people.
because other people have other shit to do for more important things. So we got stuck with Time Attack.
That's fine.
I hope nobody takes that seriously as like an insult. It was a
not
joke.
an insult.
It was
It's
a joke.
Yeah, I'm excited about
But I'm
it.
just like they've got Maximum Driftcast and Deanna and
Yeah, those guys are doing their own thing, and then we need to do things.
yeah, we need to do Time Attack. So anyway, if you guys are going to that, let us know. Follow us on the Instagram. Join the consortium.
Still the consortium. We'll stick with it for
It might be the consortium for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, why not?
At least for another like 14 days.
I think the picture is going to change pretty soon based on some of the comments I've seen lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the one to have one with Booney in the '80s car, and with your new Porsche. There's so many things that. Plus, with this episode where I'm calling people out saying to do it, there's definitely gonna be a new picture.
Yeah, I know. We definitely need a new picture.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Catch you guys next week.
see ya.